When you call for a tow truck, they show up to fix your tire, give you a boost, or even take your car to a mechanic. But have you ever wondered what it takes to get to that point? Hey guys, welcome back to That One Thing. Today, we're meeting with the folks at Tuber Towing to show us what goes on behind the scenes when you call for a tow truck. Ryan and Taylor have agreed to give us the tour, show us what happens and how it works, and even put me to work to help out a little bit. Guys, thanks for having us in today. It's awesome to see you. I'm hoping we can pick up a lot from you guys today on this.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we're excited.
So what made you decide to go with tow truck instead of something else? Why did you decide that being on the road or driving a tow truck and helping people out like that was the way to go?
I was 18 years old when I first started driving tow truck. I wanted to give back to the community. When they call, they're at their all-time low. They don't know where else to turn to, and ultimately I love being that answer and helping them out when they need it most.
Yeah. For me, it was I needed a part-time job. I like cars, and so like automotive really came natural to me. I also like driving, like trucks, and helping people out in need seemed to really align with me. I enjoyed being out on the road, helping people, and work around cars.
So a lot of it seems to stem just the idea of helping others out.
I think so. I think that's definitely a big piece, big quality, definitely for any tow operator out there. You get bit by the bug, and you want to help people. You want to get out there, and I think that's definitely one of those qualities for sure.
Get bit by the bug. Get 13 years in it, and I absolutely love it. Every day is different.
Yeah.
It is a bug.
I did it part-time almost 20 years ago, and here I am, still doing it.
So out of your guys' fleet, what different trucks do you run? I mean, obviously you're going to have your standard tow trucks, your big trucks. What's the big difference with all the different trucks you have?
So we have trucks all the way from a tiny little Ford Ranger all the way up to a massive 50-ton and a trailer that can haul up to 100,000 pounds. So we have everything from a tiny little truck all the way up to your conventional tow truck that you were speaking about, to a single axle flat deck, to a tandem flat deck. Every tow truck that you can think of, even a military rotator.
Okay, I gotta ask, how does a Ford Ranger fit into this?
So Ford Ranger is a fantastic, what we call service truck. Good story. We had a mobility scooter that lost a tire. It's not a conventional call. We don't know how to deal with that. So we sent out our operator in the Ford Ranger to go assess the scene. It turns out all she needed was the bearing pushed back on for the tire, and our operator used his trailer hitch and his jack in a Ford Ranger to get this mobility scooter back on.
Okay. So is it set up with like a deck and whatnot, or is it just like the stock with the hitch and whatnot?
So this Ford Ranger is stocked with the hitch. It has a roll-out tray in the box, as well as it has your air compressor, your battery in the back. There's a massive cat battery. So it can boost your bigger diesels and stuff like that in the wintertime. So it doesn't specifically tow, but it can pull a trailer.
Okay. So for the work involved with running the tow truck, how physically intense is the job?
It can be very physically intense. So what's unique about driving a tow truck is going from 0 to 60. So you're driving around, you're sitting in the truck, there's not a lot of physical activity going on, but as soon as you get to that call, now it's time to go. So there's that really quick ramping up and really getting into the work. And so to some degree, you do need to be in good physical standing. You have to be able to ramp up, do that 0 to 60 and start working right away. And then it can be very physically demanding, especially on those long calls that we're at. But at the same time too, being prepared for that, maybe a little stretch before you get going, and drink your water too, and make sure your body's in good shape so you can go and do those 12-hour calls.
So you don't have to be a bodybuilder, but you do have to be relatively fit.
That's right. It does help. I mean, there is the heavy equipment. We do have stuff that weighs 50, 60 pounds. It's not light stuff. And especially with the heavy, we have a 50-ton. So being able to manipulate that equipment, putting it on, be in good shape for that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Just like Ryan said, this is not like hockey practice or soccer practice. You don't get a warm-up before the game. You literally, it's an emergent. You show up, and it's time to work.
And it's time to go right out the gate.
Time to go. We do have calls. We've had calls in the past that are 18, 26-hour calls. With that, we need people in, people out of that scene to make sure everybody's refreshed and able to actually pay attention on that scene. With emergency scenes, dealing with heavy equipment, things can happen quick.
So on a longer call like that, you're cycling people.
That's correct, yeah. We have people coming in, people coming out, and new shifts coming on, new shifts going back to the barn.
And that makes sense. It's easier to keep track of everything and, you know, keep everybody safe that way.
Got to give guys time to recharge, refresh, come back out the next day.
So with your guys, is there any special skills or abilities that are required to do this job?
First one, customer service. You got to be able to talk to humans, which sounds easy for some people, but it's
That's
really
a lot harder.
asking a lot for some of these folks. And really, so you're dealing with people that are in sensitive situations. They've had a rough day. Probably the worst part of their day is when you're showing up. So you have to be able to deal with those situations. You have to have compassion, some empathy. You have to understand where they're coming from. And so when you can resonate with them that way, you can maybe find better ways of caring for them. So you deal with the human side. That's probably one of the biggest ones. And then mechanical knowledge. There's a spectrum of what you need to know when it comes to, servicing folks out there on the road. So that's two. The third one is driving. You have to have that safety conscious mindset when you're out there on the road. You have to think too, you're driving a massive billboard. You've got tuber on the side of your truck. The motoring public, they're gonna see us driving. So those three skill sets, I would say, are the biggest things that come into play when you're wanting to be a tow truck operator, is being able to drive safely, customer service, taking care of people, and then that mechanical knowledge is huge too.
What kind of training do you have to go through to be ready for that job?
Normally, people come to us, they have a skill set in the towing industry already, and with that comes bad habits. So whether you have skill set or not prior to being employed by Tuber Towing, we have an internal training program that our folks run through. We also have an external bodies. We have 2 or 3 of them that we run our folks through so that they can learn and develop the skills and be safe on the road. One of the bigger ones, it teaches winch line and tow truck care. You start in a smaller truck, you deal with less weight, you work your way all the way up to 300,000 pounds. 300,000 pounds dangling by one wire is a scary thought. So with the training becomes the knowledge behind the numbers and how much you can handle.
Definitely that safety element in there too. There's the truck checks. We put a big importance on that. Make sure your truck is ready before you head out on the road. Double checking, make sure all the equipment's there, make sure all the equipment's working. The last thing you want to do is show up on scene to help someone and you can't because your truck's not working.
What about restrictions and legalities? So, I mean, obviously, I'm guessing there's, laws in place or even procedures from a federal or a provincial level, things like that kind of help govern you guys and what you can and can't do.
We advocate to make our job safer. Nobody else is out there looking out for us. Politicians aren't there wide awake at night going, how do I make tow truck drivers safer? It's just really not a thing. It has to come from the industry, it has to come from the groups. Another one of the things that we're passionate about is creating some of those laws. We're not just the only ones flying solo. We know we have a lot of brothers and sisters out there in the industry, and we want them operating safe too. Really, at the end of the day, we want to make our scene safe. We want to make sure what everybody's doing is safe for our operators too. So that's really what's important to us. We can't rely on what's out there for regulations. We got to make sure that we can be safe on our own.
I like that, the fact that safety is kind of the key, and it basically all boils down to the focus that regardless of what happens or how it goes on, it's going to focus down to the driver making sure they're safe.
Absolutely. And while they might not be able to do it, we want to give them the tools to operate safely. And that's just something that we're passionate about.
How many units are you running right now?
I'm not running any. I work in an office. We have about 35, and we can only run one at a time. So he might run the 50.
I run 2, truck and trailer.
This one's more for Taylor. You have a substantial following on social media already, whether it's TikTok, you're branching out into YouTube, you've got a solid following. The game is always, where's Taylor? What is it that got you into the social media aspect to help promote Tuber Towing?
It's a complex question. So social media started when my 2 boys asked me what I do in a day. So I started taking videos and I started posting them more for them and for my family to see what I do. Family and friends absolutely loved it, and they started sharing it, and it just kind of took off from there. I share my quirky side. I don't hide anything of what I do. I am who I am on camera, and I mess up like everybody else. So I love posting the honest side of towing. And the biggest thing for me is if you think tow truck, you think the grungy old man, smelly man with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth there that's not happy at 2 in the morning to tow your vehicle. And that is not what the towing industry is. That is what it may have been. We're there to change the industry for the better.
We don't have the sexy PR that like firefighters have. And so what Taylor's really doing, and arguably at the front run, is changing that, changing the image.
So Taylor's trying to change that, and basically we can expect a calendar for next year.
Yes, at some point.
If you're requesting a calendar, I just need you to hire me a photographer and tell me what to do.
I know a guy.
Well,
2025.
Guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the usuals. It really helps the channel out. I'm going to leave links in the description below for their website and for their socials. Make sure you check them out. And don't forget to leave your comment for your one thing so we can put a video together for it. Ryan, Taylor, thanks for having us in today. It has been absolutely awesome seeing you guys and seeing what actually goes on.
absolutely. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you.
This has been That One Thing. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have a good one.
YouTube. I'm expecting 10,000 views though, Sean.
Dude, you're lucky if you get 20.